From homeless black man to millionaire, an inspiring journey of hope. Isabella traced a trembling finger over the marble table, breath caught when a sharp chill slid down her spine. The night outside the glass walls of Le Chateau, Manhattan's most exclusive restaurant, was alive with glittering lights and hushed promises of secrets yet untold. She wore silk, diamonds, money's armor, but inside, her heart pounded like a restless drum, beaten by something older, rawer. Suddenly, a barefoot girl appeared at her side, stepping out from the shadows like a ghost, clothes threadbare and eyes wide with urgent hope. Julia! She looked fragile, her feet bruised and dirty, her hair tangled like wild branches after a storm. Yet there was a fire burning in her, fierce and desperate. "Please," Julia's voice trembled, cutting through the murmur of silver forks and whispered deals. "Any leftovers? Just a bite?" Her words spilled like shattered glass. Heads turned, curious stares flickered like lightning bolts across the room. The staff froze, their polished smiles slipping into tight frowns, and then whispers, quick and sharp. Isabella felt the weight of every gaze, a slow burning heat crawling up her neck. She glanced at her own perfectly set plate, bountiful and untouched. Her pulse quickened. Something inside her cracked open. Could she just ignore this girl? The thought made her chest squeeze painfully. "Come with me," Isabella said, voice low but firm. Julia's eyes widened. A flicker of disbelief, then cautious hope. Isabella stood, a whirlwind of energy against the pristine calm of the restaurant. She led Julia out of the glow into cold night air, sharp with city sounds, honking taxis, distant sirens, hurried footsteps. At Isabella's townhouse, the door swung open to suspicion. The household staff exchanged wary looks. Claudia, her sister, folded arms like a shield, lips pressed hard. "This isn't my problem," Claudia hissed. "You don't just invite strangers into your home." But Isabella's hands shook as she watched Julia sink into the unfamiliar cushions, cackling gleefully, the tension in her slender shoulders like a rope stretched tight. Days passed. Julia stumbled through this new world, eyes flicking toward walls and corners like memories lurked there. The staff's skepticism grew, their whispered doubts thick as smoke. Then a shadow emerged from Julia's past. Her father. His arrival cracked the fragile peace like a thunderclap. Hot threats laced with chilling promises. Julia flinched, her calm replaced by a tremor that ran through her whole body. One desperate night, with trembling hands and a heart pounding louder than ever, Julia pulled out her phone and hit record, capturing her father's dark intentions in clear, unmistakable words. The fallout was swift. Police sirens sliced the night, an arrest. Yet, as Julia's fate swayed in the courtroom's cold glare, Isabella's mind reeled. Was this storm worth it? The price of kindness suddenly felt like an unbearable weight crushing her spirit. The city's eyes never blinked. Murmurs rose, judgments thrown like stones. Yet beneath it all, a fragile bond held them, fractured but unbroken. And then, just when the darkness seemed endless, a lifeline, A chance for Julia that could change everything. A scholarship, an escape, a future glittering with possibility. But the past, it didn't let go easy. Will Julia step into the light? Or will the shadows drag her back? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss out on any exclusive content coming your way. And while you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The air hung thick with tension as Isabella and Julia sat across from each other in the cozy living room. The light from the street lamp outside casting flickering shadows against the wall. Julia's fingers nervously traced the edge of the cushion, her mind racing. She had just learned about the scholarship, the escape she had been dreaming of. Hope, so tangible, pulsed between them like electricity. But just as they settled into a moment of relief, the door burst open. Claudia stormed in, her face red, eyes ablaze. "What have you done?" she spat, each word sharp as shattered glass. "What do you mean?" Isabella questioned, confusion knitting her brow. Claudia didn't answer. Instead, she thrust her phone toward them, the screen glowing like a spotlight, illuminating a dark truth. Isabella felt her stomach drop as she recognized the face on the screen. Julia's father, a man she had only seen in fleeting glimpses during rare calls or the few photos Julia had shown her. "He's not just a troubled man, Isabella. He's dangerous." Claudia's voice shook, fear leaking through her bravado. "He's a criminal, wanted in multiple states." Julia's breath caught in her throat. "What? No, that can't be true." But deep down, a flicker of doubt ignited. Could the man she had feared all her life be more than just a desperate father? Could he be someone sinister? "I did some digging, Julia," Claudia continued, relentless. "He's been connected to drug trafficking, even kidnapping. They say he's a ghost slipping through the cracks of the law. And now he's here, looking for you." Panic spread through the room like wildfire. Julia's pulse raced, each beat echoing the word escape that played on repeat in her mind. How could she have been so naive? Isabella's heart raced as she grasped the implications. "What does this mean for you, Julia?" But before Julia could respond, the sound of splintering wood sliced through the stillness. A single, resonant crack that sent icy dread coursing through them. The front door swung wide. Standing there was a towering figure, silhouetted against the chaotic streetlights. Julia's father stepped inside, his expression dark, menacing. "Looking for something, Julia?" His voice dripped with a twisted mix of love and threat. Time slowed as they all froze. The shadows in the room stretched and morphed, the haunting truth hanging in the air like a storm ready to break. Julia's mind raced. This wasn't just about a scholarship anymore, or escaping her past. This was a fight for survival. "Stay back!" Isabella shouted, instinct kicking in as she moved protectively in front of Julia, her heart pounding like a war drum. But as Julia's father stepped forward, a wild glint in his eyes, something unexpected happened. In a heartbeat, a piercing scream tore through the tension, relentless and raw. Claudia had lunged forward, unafraid. Perhaps she was tired of being afraid. She pushed Julia behind her and faced their intruder, fire blazing in her eyes. "Get away from her!" Claudia's voice rang out like a clarion call, fierce and unyielding. For a moment, it felt as if the world had stopped. 3 hearts pounding, each face a study in fear and determination. Julia felt a deep well of emotion. Fear, love, anger. Everything collided and erupted. Then came the sound of sirens, loud, blaring, overwhelming. But it was the sight behind her father, looming like a storm front, that made her heart stop. Another figure emerged, his face eerily familiar. It's the brother she never knew she had. They were all just pieces in a game, and the stakes were higher than they ever imagined. As the truth began to unravel, what would it cost them? The tension hung heavy in the air, suffocating and electric, as Julia's father stepped deeper into the living room. His gaze flicked from Isabella to Claudia, then back to Julia. Shadows danced across the walls, twisting the reality of the moment into something charged and sinister. "Stay away from my daughter," Isabella shouted, her voice breaking the silence like shattered glass. She moved closer to Julia, eyes locked on the intruder with fierce determination. But just as the standoff seemed to settle into a dark rhythm, another figure appeared in the doorway. It was a young man, strikingly familiar, with the same sharp jawline and intensity as Julia's father. The world tilted as Julia's heart raced. This was her brother, the brother she had never known existed. "Tom?" she whispered, breath catching in her throat. The young man nodded, but there was something strange in his eyes. A flicker of recognition, but also a darkness that sent shivers racing down Julia's spine. "I came to find you, Julia," he said, his tone low and urgent, slicing through the chaos. "Find her?" Claudia shot back, skepticism dripping from her words. "You think she wants anything to do with this?" She gestured wildly at their father, whose features loomed like a dark cloud. But Tom shook his head, his sharp gaze darting toward their father. "No, it's not what you think. This isn't just a reunion." The panic began to churn in Julia's stomach. What did he mean? Before Tom could explain, the air crackled with violent energy. Their father pushed past Isabella, shoving her aside, his eyes gleaming with wild desperation. "I won't let you take her!" he roared, and in the chaos, a loud crash erupted from the back of the house, glass shattering, the echo of chaos cascading through the walls. Isabella stumbled back into the hallway, her breath hitching as the sound reverberated around them. "What now?" she gasped, her heart racing. "Get out!" Claudia yelled, and she grabbed onto Julia's arm, her grip ironclad. But Tom was already moving, stepping in front of Julia with fierce resolve. "You don't understand," he shouted, desperation cracking through his voice. "He's not just her father, he's lying to you both." Then, from the depths of the shadows, a chilling revelation unraveled. "I'm not your enemy, Julia," their father bellowed. "I was trying to protect you all along." The room stilled. eyes darting between the men like fireflies caught in a jar. Julia's heart sunk deeper. She could feel the weight of secrets brewing beneath the surface. Just then, a distant wail of sirens wrapped around them, echoing through the tense air. Her father's form shifted, conflicted. You have to understand, he's not what he seems, Julia. We are not safe. Safe from what? Julia spat, anger coursing through her veins. From you or from the truth? That's enough, Tom shouted, fear and anger rising, his hands coming to rest on Julia's shoulders. Listen to me. There are things about our family, things that change everything. The way he looked at her held a depth of emotion that sent a chill down her spine. There was truth in his eyes, but also something darker, buried beneath years of silence. Suddenly, before anyone could respond, Tom pulled out a small device, revealing a hidden memory card. This holds everything, secrets, betrayal, the truth about our family. Julia's world spun wildly, feeling cracks widen under her feet. Moments stretched painfully, then snapped back together. The man she feared, her brother she had never known, the secrets of their family. What did it all mean? As her father turned to leave, the tension escalated. With a pulse of electricity filling the room, he looked back one last time, eyes brimming with something she couldn't quite decipher. You're not ready to learn the truth, Julia, but you will be, and it will change everything. And with that, he vanished into the night, leaving behind a gaping chasm of questions. What secrets lay hidden in the shadows, and how would they reshape them all? Would Julia ever uncover the truth? Or would it remain just out of reach? The silence that followed felt like the calm before a storm, each moment heavy with uncertainty. The silence after their father's departure pressed heavily against Julia's chest, like an anchor, dragging her into darkness. She felt the weight of his words twisting around her, carrying the bitter taste of betrayal. Her mind raced. How had everything become so convoluted, so dangerous? Tom's anxious gaze held a flicker of something under the surface. Was it fear or a warning? Julia, listen to me. Tom's voice broke through her thoughts, low and fierce. You don't get it. It's not just about him. It's about the family name, about who we are. What do you mean? Julia felt her heart beating faster, the uneasy feeling tightening in her stomach. She wanted to scream, to run, to not think about any of this. But before Tom could answer, the room quaked. The walls seemed to tremble, the intensity of the moment tightening like a spring coiled to snap. Outside, the distant wail of the sirens grew sharper, a discordant symphony of urgency. Then, suddenly, a flash of headlights burst through the curtains, illuminating the room with ghostly brightness. Shadows flickered like ghosts along the walls. What now? Claudia whispered, eyes wide and darting around the room, fear morphing into pure panic. Then came a deafening bang, a force that reverberated through the house, shaking the windows and making the floor tremble beneath them. The sound echoed, a blunt reminder that danger was not just lurking outside. It was crashing inside their walls. Isabella flung herself toward the door, heart racing. "Stay close!" she shouted, urgency blending with instinct. They needed to get out, to move, to run. But before they could react, Another figure appeared, this one stepping through the doorway like a specter. It was a woman, hair wild, eyes blazing with urgency, dressed in a dirty, torn jacket. Julia felt her mind twist in confusion. It was a woman she recognized from the streets, someone she had seen before, waiting in the shadows. "Julia, you have to listen to me," the woman shouted, voice raw and desperate. "They're coming for you. All of you." Tom flinched, but Julia couldn't look away. "What do you mean?" she demanded, the words spilling out, a mixture of fear and confusion. "They know you've been hiding. The people your father works for, they won't stop until they find you. You're not safe here." The reality slammed into her like a freight train. Everything she thought she knew about her father and this family was being pulled apart. "Run!" the woman shouted, edging closer, her breath hitching. "Trust me, I can help you." A cacophony of voices bubbled in the room, confusion and terror swirling. Tom and Claudia exchanged panicked looks, but something flickered in Tom's eyes. A recognition, a spark of resolve. Then, without warning, a deafening crash erupted from the back of the house. The door exploded inward, flinging splinters as a group of men surged into the room. Faces obscured by masks, and intent clear. "Get them!" one barked, and the rush of chaos ignited. Isabella screamed as she stumbled back, adrenaline flooding her veins. And as she turned to grab Julia's arm, it happened. The wild woman lunged forward, her arms outstretched. "No!" Julia shouted, but the sound was swallowed in the storm of chaos. In that terrifying moment, the woman spun around, revealing a familiar face. Not a stranger, but someone who had always been right there in the shadows of her memory. A sister she never knew existed. "Charlotte?" Julia gasped, disbelief flooding her. But before Charlotte could explain, the men surged forward, and the chaos erupted, shouting, grasping hands, and darkness descending as the world spun wildly out of control. And in that fraught chaos, as everything they knew shattered, Julia felt the sharp pang of a deeper truth. Secrets, betrayals, connections unraveled before her eyes, leaving one burning question in the air. Who could she really trust? The chaos exploded around them as the masked men surged forward, but everything slowed for Julia. She could barely hear the frantic shouts over the thudding of her heart. Her father was still standing there, face twisted in desperation, and her brother, Tom, was blocking the doorway. "Get away from her! Trust me, we need to go now!" she shouted, her eyes wild with urgency. But something sharp pierced through the whirlwind. Just as the masked intruders reached them, a loud crack echoed from the back of the house. A gunshot. Julia froze, her breath hitching. It was followed by shouts, confusion erupting like a firework. The men hesitated, eyes darting toward the sound. "Run!" Isabella's voice sliced through the chaos, sharp and clear. She pushed Julia and Claudia toward the side door, eyes wide. But Julia couldn't move. She was paralyzed, caught between the storm of chaos and the voice of her father ringing in her ears. "Julia!" he yelled, fear edging every word. "You don't understand. I'm trying to save you." "Save her?" The words struck like a physical blow. "From what?" she shouted back, confusion mixing with fury. "From you?" But then Amidst the commotion and shards of glass, everything changed. A new figure burst into the room, a woman with fiery red hair, her eyes fierce and determined. It was someone Julia had never expected to see. "Mom?" The word escaped Julia's lips, a whisper of shock. The room stilled, eclipsed in a moment of disbelief. The sight of her mother, alive, felt like a crack of lightning. "Get out, now!" Her mother's voice was commanding, fierce as she confronted Julia's father. "This isn't what you think." "What do you mean?" Julia couldn't comprehend. "But it's not just about him," her mother snapped, glancing toward the intruders, their faces still obscured. "There's no time." Suddenly, the air crackled with tension. The masked men looked uncertain but still advanced. Her mother pulled something from her pocket, a small device, and with one press, a blinding flash of light filled the room, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. When the light dimmed, everything shifted. Julia's vision cleared, and in that heartbeat, she saw it. The men were trapped in a glowing net, the air shimmering around them. "Run, Julia!" her mother screamed, urgency vibrating through her words. The red light pulsated, the air thickening with a strange energy. "What is this?" Tom gasped, wide-eyed, glancing from Julia to their mother. "Your father has been lying to all of us," she continued, voice steady now. "He's not here to protect you. He's been hiding the truth about our family, and it's time you knew." Every word was a jagged wrench of reality. Julia felt as if the ground beneath her was shifting. Her father, a towering figure of both fear and longing, stood stunned. The truth hung between them, heavy and raw. "And those men?" Claudia whispered, eyes wide with disbelief. "They were sent to bring us back, to finish what he started," her mother said, voice shaking, regret anchoring her words. "Your father chose this life, Julia, but you don't have to follow him." In that moment, everything slipped. Julia's heart raced. Confusion turned to dread as the implications settled in. Her own mother, returning to a life that had haunted their family for years. What did it mean? But as urgency clawed at her, the net started to pulse erratically. "Go!" her mother shouted, as the masked men began to wriggle and grab. "You have to get out now!" Then, as if time unraveled, one of the men broke free, lunging toward her mother. With a roar, the chaos erupted anew, and Julia felt everything spiral into a hurricane of darkness. "Mom!" she screamed, just as everything went silent around them for a breathless second. The true nature of their family was unraveling before her eyes, and in that piercing moment, shadow and doubt clawed at her, leaving one chilling thought. What happens now? What had she really known all along? The room buzzed with chaos, a whirlwind of confusion as masked figures surged forward. Julia's heart raced, a mixture of fear and disbelief flooding her veins. "Mom, we need to go," she urged, but her mother stood defiantly, facing their father with a fire in her eyes. "Don't let them take you!" she called out, voice clear amidst the clamor. The net crackled, holding the intruders momentarily at bay. Julia felt a wave of desperation wash over her, her mind spinning with confusion and dread. Was her mother truly here to protect them? Or was this yet another deception? The intruders began to shake off the energy. Their eyes narrowed with fury. One of them lunged forward, but with a swift motion, Tom grabbed Julia's shoulder, his grip fierce. "We have to run!" Just then, another deafening bang rocked the house, a sound even more violent than before. The front door creaked ominously, splintering as a new figure burst through. It was a woman, breathless, with a familiar face that sent shockwaves through Julia's already frayed nerves. "Emily?" Julia whispered, recognition dawning like a storm. Her long-lost cousin, thought dead all these years, emerged from shadows like a spirit from a dark past. "Julia!" Emily shouted, rushing forward, her eyes wide. "They're here! They found us! We have to get out now!" But before they could move, the masked men sprung into action. One of them knocking over a lamp, sending it crashing to the floor. The sound shattered the moment, and as if cued by an unseen hand, it was an eruption of chaos. "Your father has held the truth from all of us," Emily continued, urgency coating her words. "He's been manipulating you, Julia. You're not just a pawn in this game. You're the last piece he needs." Stunned, Julia staggered back. "What? What are you talking about?" Just then, the lights flickered. A figure stepped into the room from behind a curtain of darkness. It was Julia's father, but there was something different about him now. An unsettling calm in the storm. "I've kept you all alive for this moment," he said, voice low but steady. "All of you. Now it's time for the truth." Suddenly, he pulled out a small device from his pocket, and with a swift motion, pressed a button. The entire house lit up in blinding light, bathing them all in an ethereal glow. Confusion spread like wildfire. Tom shielded his eyes, while Julia felt her heart pound harder. "What have you done?" she demanded, horror gripping her. The ground shook beneath them. It felt as though reality itself was bending. With a sharp crack, like thunder, a portal opened in the corner of the room, an inky black void swirling with energy. "What's happening?" Claudia shrieked, grasping at Tom's hand. "Everything you know is about to change," her father said, the shadows of his past flickering behind him. "This is our legacy, and it cannot end here." The churning darkness called to Julia, whispers echoing inside her mind. Secrets, long buried, twisted with each pulse. "What do you mean?" she cried, desperate to understand. "What is all this?" But as she reached out, something unexpected happened. The ground beneath her trembled ominously, and a sudden rush of air pulled her toward the portal. "No," she gasped, but it was too late. In the chaos of screams and confusion, she felt herself slip away, the world fading into obscurity. Faces around her blurred like watercolors, a kaleidoscope of emotions. And just before everything went dark, she caught a glimpse of her mother's panicked expression. "Julia!" But it was gone. Everything was gone. Only silence wrapped around her like a shroud, heavy and suffocating. When the darkness faded, Julia found herself suspended in a void, weightless. As the echoes of existence hummed around her, one thought crystallized with terrifying clarity. What truly lay ahead? And could she ever return? The darkness faded, and Julia found herself floating in a strange void. Weightless, it felt both terrifying and oddly serene. But just as the panic bubbled up in her throat, she caught a familiar sound, The rush of voices, a distant echo of the chaos she'd had left behind. "Julia!" That voice, her mother's, it cut through the stillness like a lifeline. "Mom!" Julia called out, but her voice felt small, lost in the inky blackness. Suddenly, the world snapped back into focus. She was no longer suspended in nothingness, but standing in a dimly lit room. The air was thick with tension. She blinked, absorbing the familiar figures surrounding her. Tom, Claudia, and Isabella huddled close in a corner, their faces masked with confusion and fear. But the softness in their features quickly turned hard as they stared, wide-eyed, at something just beyond Julia's reach. "Look out!" Tom shouted, pointing towards the doorway. All heads turned, and Julia's breath hitched as she saw her father step through the entrance. Except he wasn't alone. He had brought someone with him. A woman shrouded in shadows, her eyes bright and intense, a soft smile creeping across her lips. Julia's heart raced as recognition flooded through her. "Jessica!" she breathed, astonished. Her sister, the one her father had kept secret all these years. "You're alive?" "Yes, and I'm here to help you," Jessica called out, urgency lacing her voice. "But we don't have much time. They're coming." "Who's coming?" Julia's mind spun. Just when she thought she grasped the narrative, it unraveled like loose threads. Before anyone could respond, chaos erupted. Doors burst open. The masked men stormed in, their shadows swallowing the room like a tidal wave. Julia felt panic claw at her chest as she watched her family tense. "Stay behind me!" Isabella shouted, stepping in front of Julia. But it was too late. One of the intruders lunged forward, and in a blur, an unmistakable bang echoed through the space. A gunshot pierced the air, slicing through the moment. Time stalled. A thick silence hung. Then came the shocking realization. Claudia fell to the ground, a gasp escaping her lips. Julia's world tilted on its axis, heart thrumming wildly. "No! Claudia!" Tears stung her eyes as she rushed forward. But suddenly Jessica stepped in her way. "Stop! Don't!" she cried, voice trembling. "It's not what you think!" But Julia's heart was racing. The chaos reigned, pounding like rain against a window. The sight of Claudia crumpled on the floor sent shockwaves through Julia's entire being. "Claudia!" Tom's voice broke like a dam. He rushed to her side, panic painting his face. "It's a setup!" Jessica screamed, fear igniting her features. "He's been controlling us all!" "Our father?" He manipulated everything. The scholarships, the threats, even your friendship. It was all part of the plan. Julia's mind reeled. Plan? What are you saying? Your father is not who you think he is. Jessica's voice was urgent, slicing through the noise. He's been playing both sides. He's not protecting you. He's using you. We need to leave now. But just as the words left Jessica's lips, a harsh laugh filled the air. You think you can escape this? Her father stepped forward, his expression twisted in a manic grin. You have no idea who I really am. You thought I was just a criminal? You were wrong. Before Julia could register the full weight of his words, she was met with an unexpected twist. The masked men paused, their aggressive stances shifting to something almost reverent. "Master, we're ready," one of them said, looking to her father. reverence in his tone. "Ready for what?" Julia gasped, every nerve ending on fire. "Your new life, daughter," her father said, his voice low and smooth. "You were born for this." It struck like lightning. Julia, an unwilling heir to an empire of shadows. The truth crashed over her like a tidal wave. "There's so much he hasn't told you." The room buzzed with tension as everyone turned toward Jessica, captivated by her intensity. "Bigger? What do you mean?" Julia asked, desperation creeping in. Suddenly, a furious bang echoed from outside, knocking the breath from her lungs. The intruders reshaped, their focus shifting from Julia to the doorway. "Keep her safe," one of them barked, lunging toward her father. But in that instant, the atmosphere snapped. A blinding light surged around the room, engulfing everything, followed by a bone-rattling tremor. "Get down!" Isabella shouted, and in a flash, she yanked Julia to the floor. As they fell, the world exploded into fragments. Dust swirled like a storm. The air thickened with screams echoing from all directions. "Stay with me!" Claudia clawed at Julia's arm, but she could barely hold on. Everything was chaos. Shapes moved in the haze. Fear and confusion flooded the room. Then another roar shook the structure. "Get out!" a voice shouted from afar, and amid it all, Julia locked eyes with her father. For a split second, their gazes collided just as the ground beneath them cracked, swallowing any hope of safety. The floor buckled. Julia felt herself slipping. "Mom!" she screamed, but her voice was lost in the cacophony. The room around her morphed into a hellscape of uncertainty. Chaos erupted, shredding every moment of normalcy they had clung to. "Julia, hold on!" Tom stretched his hand toward her, but then something shifted. In the madness, an unfamiliar glimmer caught her eye. The portal behind them pulsed erratically, hues of darkness swirling and beckoning her. "Julia!" It was her mother again, cutting through the noise. But there was something different in her tone, something raw and desperate. "I'm not the only one at stake." Then came a sickening crack. The floor broke apart completely. "Mom!" A surge of force propelled Julia forward, toward the portal. It felt like an invisible hand gripping her waist, tugging her through the oppressive chaos. But as she was pulled closer, time came to a crushing halt. An intense wave, pain, loss, all their secrets crashed against her like a tidal wave. It twisted her stomach as new realities twisted and morphed. And then she heard it. Her heart stopped as the words cut through the chaos. "You've always been part of this, Julia. Part of us." The voice belonged to a stranger, one she had never known. A voice belonging to a figure emerging from the shadows. It was a woman, tall and imposing, with eyes that burned like a blaze. "Agnes?" Julia's voice trembled, confusion threading through the air. "Your birth mother," the woman declared, stepping forward into the dim light, fiery and fierce. The revelation hit like lightning, electrifying every nerve in Julia's body. "She's here to take you," her father spat, fury and fear coiling around his words. "She wants to rip you from us." But before Julia could process the weight of this truth, the masked men rushed forward, ready to strike. Panic surged as the air thickened further. "Julia!" Agnes shouted, determination etched into her features. "You must trust me. We have a heritage that ties us together, a legacy like no other." "Enough!" Julia's father roared, desperation dripping from his voice. The crack in his mask began to widen, revealing something deeper, something monstrous. "Leave!" Claudia yelled, pulling Julia back, urging her toward the flickering light. In that instant of chaos, a shattering realization hit Julia like a wave of ice. Everything was shifting. Every relationship, every truth was on the brink of collapse. What had she believed? And just as the world closed in around her, leaving nothing but the familiar pulse of urgency and fear, Julia turned back to face her father one last time. The shadows dancing in his eyes revealed more than she cared to understand. "Who are you, really?" she asked, dread gnawing at her insides. But amidst the smoke and the debris, answers taunted her. Silence draped over the room like a heavy shroud, leaving every soul hanging in a moment suspended between grief and revelation. Now, torn between worlds, identities, and bloodlines, Julia felt the truth close in, pressing against her chest. Change was coming, and it would shake every foundation she had come to know. The questions loomed larger than the chaos, pulsating violently in her mind. Would she accept this new reality? Would she embrace the lingering shadows or risk losing everything? Everything was on the brink, and all she could do was step forward, heart racing into the unknown. The room pulsed with tension. Julia stood frozen, the walls closing in as her heart hammered in her chest. Her father's face darkened under the weight of her gaze. But just as Julia opened her mouth to demand answers, a loud crash echoed from the back of the house. The sound tore through the... Tom shouted, pushing Julia and Jessica behind him. But the moment he moved, everything changed. The door burst open, not from outside, but from the hallway, revealing a second group of masked men. They flooded into the room like a tide of shadows, and Julia's breath caught in her throat as panic surged around her like wildfire. She could see their eyes hidden under balaclavas, the gleam of something sharp glinting in their hands. "Get out of here!" her father yelled. "Get out!" Urgency, turning his voice into a roar. The tension erupted into chaos, people scrambling, hearts racing, instincts kicking in. But as Julia turned to flee, she caught a glimpse of her mother's torn expression. "This isn't over!" her mother shouted, fear lacing every word. Julia hesitated, emotions clawing at her. What did she mean? In that fleeting moment, everything shattered. A sudden explosion rocked the room, the blast ripping through the fabric of the familiar. A wall crumbled, dust spiraling in a suffocating cloud. The masked figures stumbled back, confusion flashing across their faces. "Move!" Emily shouted, urgency electrifying her voice. In the chaos, Julia felt something crack within her. Was it fear? Betrayal? Or was it the reality of everything unspooling like thread? She sprinted toward the kitchen, a path through the wreckage. But as she ran, a pulse of cold air slammed against her, halting her steps. From the smoke emerged a figure, someone she never expected to see. The last person she thought would ever arrive. Yet somehow, here they were. It was her grandmother. Eyes fierce, determination etched on her face. "Anna!" Julia's voice quaked. "What are you doing here?" "I've come to finish this," her grandmother said, stepping into the light. The air felt electric around her, tension wrapping tightly. A promise of resolution hanging just out of reach. But then, her grandmother reached into her jacket, pulling out a small device. But chill washed over the scene. "This will show you the truth," she said firmly, each word heavy with meaning. "What truth?" Julia asked, heart pounding, but before she could comprehend the implications, her grandmother pressed a button. The device hummed to life, projecting a swirling image into the chaos of the room. Hair stood on the back of Julia's neck as figures began to appear. Clips from her family's history, secret meetings, sinister plots, and betrayals so deep they cut like knives. As she watched, everything she thought she knew twisted and turned, revealing painful truths about her family that shattered her world. "No! No!" Julia's voice fell to a whisper, her heart hammering. This couldn't be. But the truth held more weight than she could bear. Just when Julia thought the revelations couldn't get worse, the footage shifted to show a woman who looked just like her. A figure standing with her father in moments of darkness and deceit. "Who is she?" Julia gasped, confusion flooding her mind. And as the final clip revealed a harrowing truth, the air in the room thickened with disbelief. "That's..." Julia's voice trailed off, a lump in her throat. "That's me!" Shock rolled through the crowd, disbelief slicing into the heart of everything. Her family wasn't just hiding secrets. They were part of something far more sinister, something that dragged her deep into the shadows of their twisted legacy. Her vision blurred as the implications twisted sharply within her. As the room erupted into chaos, Julia felt the ground shifting beneath her, a chasm opening, leading her toward an uncharted future filled with danger. Would she step into that abyss, unravel the threads of her messy history, or would she cling to the fragments of the familiar? No matter how deceptive, the moment hung in the air, all eyes on her, waiting for her choice. Everything was about to change, and the truth? It was scarier than she could have ever imagined. Her grandmother's revelation hung in the air, thick and heavy. "You've always been part of this, Julia. Part of us." It was more than just words. It felt like a storm breaking loose. Her father's face, twisted in anger, confusion flooding his features. "You were never meant to know. You're too weak to handle the truth." Too weak? Julia felt a surge of defiance. The room buzzed with tension as masked men edged closer, their faces obscured and menacing. "You've been lying to me my entire life! Enough!" he roared, pointing toward the doorway where the masked figures shifted impatiently, their weapons glimmering. The air crackled with uncertainty, but Julia could sense a flicker of hope in her family's eyes. "Let's go, now!" Jessica shouted, grabbing Julia's arm. "I don't care about the past. We need to get out before they close in." Julia's pulse raced, the urgency slashing through her fear. They moved as one, her family now linked, the air thick with determination. They dashed through the chaos, dodging debris and shadows as the invaders lunged forward. "Over here!" Isabella yelled, leading them toward a side exit. "Stay close!" Julia could feel the heat from the chaos behind them, her skin prickling. The sounds of struggle echoed, but all she could focus on was her family right beside her. Together, they burst through the door into the cool night air. They stumbled into the street just as the sirens blared louder, a chorus of urgency piercing through the chaos of their lives. "Keep moving," Tom urged, glancing back anxiously. And within the madness, amid the cries and racing hearts, Julia felt a wild mix of fear and relief. They were out, free from the shadows. But the darkness loomed just out of sight, and doubt clawed at her mind. The group came to a halt in an alleyway, panting, hearts racing. "What now?" Claudia whispered, her voice trembling. "Now we find a way to disappear," Jessica replied, urgency in her tone. "We can't let them find us again." "I can help with that," a voice came from behind them. They turned to see Charlotte, throwing her hands up defensively. "I know how to get off the grid. Follow me." Trust didn't come easy, but desperation was thick in the air. They nodded. As they took off again, each step felt like a new beginning. Sunrise fighting through the night, but uncertainty tugged at Julia's heart. Who would they become now? The truth about their family was slipping through their fingers, shifting like sand. "Julia," Tom whispered, catching her gaze, "we'll figure this out, together." The world held its breath as they fled into the unknown, shadows trailing close. But hope flickered like a candle in the darkness. And just as they turned the corner, a shout rang out. A figure emerged from the rain, a familiar face, eyes wide with shock. "Julia, wait!" It was Emily. The twist wasn't over. The world spun again, with countless paths waiting ahead, each step deeper into the tangled web of their lives. "Ooh, who are they?" Julia whispered, the urgency crashing back, a whirlwind of uncertainty rising. There was so much left to unravel, so many secrets left buried beneath the surface. But one thing was clear, they were anything but done. You must subscribe to the channel right now. You don't want to miss out on the next exclusive story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this finale. And don't wait 1 second longer to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this ending. This is the moment to show your support.